Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coach's Four Quarters radio show. And I'm your host, Coach Joseph Lee Jr. Now, today I have a surprise for you. You know, I love coming to you with surprises. On my show today, I have a young man that has been coaching and has been doing so much for young people, but yet only young people at all levels, including into the NFL. And I am so excited about having this man on my show, or should I say young coach on my show. And his name is Randy Donner. And I want to let you know a little bit about him. I met Randy, I think it was last year, the year before.
The year before.
I was out helping a semi-pro team in Victorville, California. And at the time, I was working with the Rams, and well, I should say the Los Angeles Rams. I was working in the secondary and doing some of my key systems. But I met Randy, and come to find out, I used to see his pictures on Facebook. I said, well, what's Randy doing over there? Oh, look at him. He's over here. Oh, wait a minute. But come to find out, Randy was doing a lot of things through the NFL. Now he's a coach. And I am excited about having him on my show. Hey, Randy, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Coach Lee. Thank you very much for having me on your show. Like, you know, it's my pleasure. We met I think it was a couple of years ago. We met in Victorville, and we've been, I've been following your podcast and your show, pretty much every week. So it's pretty exciting to me to share my story for all the kids in the country.
Well, I'm so happy to have you. Now, could you give me a little history about yourself, Randy?
Sure. I'm actually originally from a city called Lugano in Switzerland. So Switzerland is pretty much in the middle of Europe. And I started playing football in 1982. And the interesting thing is that we didn't have Pop Warner. We didn't have any kind of school football. So football to us was brought us by the soldiers, the American soldiers that were based in Germany and Italy. And we didn't have any TV, and nobody knew about football. We all played soccer or basketball. And I remember one summer, somebody set up a team in my hometown, and they said, "Yeah, do you want to play football?" And pretty much without any knowledge of the game, I showed up, and the guy that was in charge of the team, the guy had some football experience, and he told me that he wanted me to be a tight end. I always been a great, big kid. I was already like 6'2", in my 200 pounds when I was like in my, early teens. So he said, well, I want you to be a tight end. And I learned the game with basic fundamentals, catching the football and running routes and learning how to block. And so basically, from zero, because I have no knowledge from any TV or anything like that. So for me, I was already I was 17 at the time when I started playing. So it wasn't something that I grew up with. It's something I started as a young man.
Great accomplishments. Great accomplishments. Now, to jump forward, I know that you are helping the tight ends for the Los Angeles Rams.
So I'm right now. Basically, unfortunately, the season hasn't started yet because there's this virus thing. So we're doing everything is being done online. So this year was going to be an assistant offensive line coach and tight end coach, and then with the Los Angeles Rams, and a offensive line coach with the high school, Desert Hot Spring High School here in California, which is a little bit different when you coach kids and pro athletes. It's a very different kind of way to go, because the kids they see you not just as a coach, but you have to be their mentor, their father. You have to be the person that basically not just about football, but like we were talking with the other coach about the academics. These kids have to understand that the academics is more important than the football, because without one, there's no football. If your grades are very low, which is something new for me too, because I always dealt with adult people. So the school was not in the issue, but with the kids now, so, before the kids can play, so you have to go through their grades, and you have to make them understand that, the percentage of football players that make it pro, that make a living out of it, is very small. So that's why academic is so important to, to make it learn something so they can go ahead with the future in their life, with their own future.
Right. And something else to fall on because a lot of kids don't see anything, but
right.
I'm going to the NFL or I want to play pro football, and they don't see any other way, because sometimes you have to understand that's a long, and very few, as you said, Randy, very few make it to the national, to the NFL. Now, let me ask you a question that I had just left off with the young man I talked to. Say I'm a dad, and my son's in high school, and he wants to play, let's say, O-line, somewhere around in there. Now, you see this child, and you say, well, he hasn't played before, but he does have potential. Break it down for me, the footwork, the things that you teach. How do you get his confidence? How do you get him to do the things that you want him to do?
Okay, the coach in high school, so that's a new thing that I'm glad that I'm doing now. I'm helping this local high school here, because one of my philosophy as a coach is basically fundamentals. This game is about technique and fundamentals. You cannot skip, the footwork, the handwork, all that stuff. And, these kids, when I showed up, last year to the high school, somebody, the assistant, the offensive coordinator invited me to come over and then check them out. And the line had no fundamental whatsoever. Nobody was taking the time to show them the exact three-point stand, the footwork, and all this thing. And I don't want them to go about without the fundamentals and then show up at a college or something, recruiting, and then the recruiter would say, where did this guy learn the game? Nobody ever taught him the game. So my philosophy is just fundamentals, basic fundamental. Every practice, you go back to the footwork, the three-point stand, the posture, the hand is, this game has evolved a lot from the time I used to play, now, because the offensive players, the players itself have become smarter. So, like everybody is trying to, even the defensive player, they understand now how the offensive lineman is blocking. Right. So now they know how to avoid that block. So as an offensive lineman, you have to evolve too in the new technique. So I see the game is evolving, keep evolving for the coach too. You have to learn a new technique, how to go about the reach block or a zone block. Everything is zone blocking pretty much, Now,
would you do a favor for me? Because a lot of our young listeners may come in at you at 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, or a new coach. You just spoke on zone blocking, breach blocking, and those type of things. So I'm going to sit here and listen. Would you explain just a little bit what you mean by breach blocking and zone blocking?
Okay, so basically we are as an offensive line, basically when you're talking about kids 6, 7, like of course Pop Warner, I emphasize protect yourself first. How do you go about doing it correctly with your head? Because you want to avoid the injuries first. So I don't want like now I was just reading yesterday, they want to try to avoid the 3-point stand, just go on a 2-point stand to avoid more head-to-head injury with the offensive line, for example. So as a young, Pop Warner age, I want him to be smart and do not, like, for example, make tackles with the heads down. And, so the proper technique, try to teach him the correct way to go to play this sport. For example, online, we have to understand that when we run, we have to go forward and block the defensive lineman for coming in. There's one mistake that I've seen at pretty much any level, even in the pro. when it's a run, there's a tendency to go as a pass protection. People have a tendency to make a back step instead of going forward. And I've seen a lot of videos of any level where players so the main thing I teach is when your first step is going forward to the guy. Don't wait the defensive lineman. This is as an offensive line coach. So go get the block, go get the defensive lineman. Don't wait for the defensive lineman to come to you.
Yes, attack him. Yes.
So somehow, I don't know, everybody has that thing of standing up or just backpedaling instead of going forward. So my first thing is like using the sledge, using the bag, whatever. Just go forward, stay low, and keep your hands, reachable.
Very important. Yes.
Yeah. So very, very fundamental. I'm just about fundamentals, like basic step. Before we go even into more complicated things, but basically zone blocking is just the line block to the left or to the right. You have now double teams. You have double teams to second level reaching. So the players, the guard and the center call each other a double block, and then they're gonna go try to block the linebacker, and the running back is gonna try to find a hole. So there's no more A gap, B gap, C gap. We block left or we block right, and then you find a hole to run through.
All right. Now,
that's the best thing.
The thing I want you to understand that how proud I am of you is because from your humble beginnings all the way to the National Football League, all the way to the National Football League, and it's something that we both have accomplished. We both started humbly, as I did, also worked our way up. Now, talk to me about all of a sudden you look around, you're in the National Football League. Tell me about how you got there.
First of all, luck, of course, mine was just, being with the right people. That's true. That's like in every other job, sometimes you need just the right person at the right time. That helped me. But what I teach about the kids is sacrifice. You cannot be a good player just, playing modern football. You have to spend a lot of time studying the game, studying the opponents, working out, getting in shape. There's a lot of things that goes behind. So when I started playing, and I was a 17-year-old man. I remember spending a lot of time in the gym, spending a lot of time watching videos, spending a lot of time, while my other friends were maybe at the partying on a Saturday night, I was home watching football game. So, and then I ended up going to a football camp in Europe, and I was hosted by Sam Rotiliano. Sam Rotiliano was the head coach of the Cleveland Browns at the time. And we spent 2 weeks together. And me as a tight end, and luckily I was good at it too. I had big hands, so I was, catching pretty much anything that was thrown at me. Every football that was thrown at me, I was, able to catch it.
Catching everything, yeah.
So Coach Rotiliano, in the Cleveland Browns, in that time, there was a tight end called Ozzie Newsome. Ozzie Newsome was one of the best tight end in the league at the time. So I was invited to attend training camp with the Cleveland Browns and learn the game from one of the best. So luck was part luck and part my willing to sacrifice for the game, and I gave everything that I had to be there, and the experience was unforgettable. Unforgettable experience at the time. Again, it was a different game because when we were playing receivers, not just blockers, but receivers. What I see now is we didn't have those sticky gloves, for example. So we learned the game how to work your hands to catch the ball. So now they have those sticky gloves that you can pretty much put your hands on the ball and you can catch anything. So my game was really rudimental, so it was very enjoyable. And I spent a lot of time with Ozzie Newsome, and I'm glad that I, had an opportunity as a young man to be there.
And that is something else. What a thrill it is to hear that from you, the way you came up. The same with me. I found out, that coaching football at the lower levels was much more different than coaching in the NFL, because in the NFL you can close your eyes and tell the player what you want done, and that player will do it to a T.
Right.
So a great accomplishment, Randy. I am so humbled to know you and to be your friend. And I'm gonna watch this year. I know that we do start, we'll do some great things. Now, what do you think about what you heard earlier? The AYS compare and share standings. What do you think about that for the young players?
What was the question? I'm sorry, Coach. What the NYS?
Compare what I had sent you to read, and you were reading up on it.
Oh yeah, your organization, right? Whatever you guys are doing.
Right.
Yes. No, I definitely. I'm going to try to get involved a little bit more. I really didn't know. We met. We didn't. I've been following the podcast, but I was not really involved, fully with your organization because I had my thing doing my coaching. But I definitely want to get involved with younger kids. I take pleasure teaching to give back. Now is the time that I, after a 37-year, careers, I can give back to the kids and I take pleasure to watch a player become a man and become a better player. So, I definitely want to take more time in that. So, hopefully, we can still, I can get involved in the Pop Warner level a little bit more. So that would be I think I really definitely, it's a game where I've been asked from a lot of people, for example, since the concussion issue came about, like a couple of years ago. And that has been another issue that people ask me, with your experience in football, would you let your kid play football knowing that, the possibility of injuries and stuff? And my answer is always yes, because I have many injuries, and I can go through the list of what I've broken and what I've done. But what the football gave me as a man in life is just irreplaceable. So definitely, that's why I tell Pop Warner it's always safety first. How to protect yourself so you don't get injured. But I would never deny a kid their love to play football. So
I did is I usually I don't do it anymore, but I try do it last year a little bit. And as you know, where we met on the football field, when I was hoping the semi-pro, when I coached in the league, I always try to come back and help and do some things at the lower levels, and then go back. But every 2 years, I try to come back, coach Pop Warner, high school, or do something to try to bring back. But anyway, I want to let you know before we sign down is I thank you. I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of your background and your steadfastness to accomplish the things that very rarely you see this type of accomplishment that you have made. And,
so you always tell I reached the biggest accomplishment, which is not a championship, is not the Super Bowl, is the Hall of Fame. So I was inducted in the Hall of Fame 3 years ago. So that's in my entire career, that's been my biggest accomplishment.
And I want to tell you the same. Well, matter of fact, I think we were right about the same time.
Right.
A couple of years ago down in Vegas, I was inducted into the Semi-Pro Hall of Fame also.
Right.
And that is, oh man, I was so excited about that. I mean, that is something that that you can't, I just can't begin to tell you. But I want to thank you for coming on the show. I have anticipated. I'm so excited. I am humble as usual. And thank you so much. And I would look to see you in the high desert, because I know you come out sometime and see the young men. And I will also try and do the same. So thank you for coming on. Stay safe, you and your family. And I look to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You too, Greg.
So long, Manny.
See you later. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.